Well, folks, Jimmy Boy has graced us with another banger. A remake of Avatar 2, Avatar Fire and Ash. Connor, what's the plot of Avatar 2, Avatar 3, Fire and Ash?
Jake Sully and his wife are sad because their son died at the end of the last movie. They decide they need to move on from the water town, so they take up with air people who have giant flying blimps. And that goes great for about 2 minutes, and then this tribe of fire people
The Fire Nation attacks.
The Fire
just
Nation
like Avatar.
attacks like an Avatar, not this Avatar, the other one. And so the kids are separated from Jake Sully. They need to be saved, and then the movie pretty much goes back and forth. People getting captured, people getting saved, traveling through the woods, trying to escape. Eventually, Colonel Man from the first two movies, who's now an Avatar, just to remind you, teams up with the Fire Nation and decides that they're some of the good ones. And
He starts banging them out.
he starts banging out the... He starts banging out the tribe leader and just living, laughing, loving. Jake Sully goes to jail and he's about to be killed, but then he's rescued dramatically. They want to get Spider. Spider gets put into the ground, and then that allows him, the earth, the Pandora gods, bless him with the ability to breathe clean air. Something that if the humans get, they would be able to colonize better because they wouldn't need the face masks, so people would actually want to move to Pandora.
Even though you need magical forest mushrooms to grow inside your whole body via magic.
The wife is like, I hate humans so much, I want to kill them all. Then Jake's like, I'm a human, remember? And she says, oh yeah. And then she gets over it, and then later, for no reason, he's like, now I want to kill all the humans, and we gotta kill Spider so more humans don't come. Anyways, all this happens, and then eventually they get in a giant final battle that's about an hour, where the main avatars, Na'vi, we meet in the first movie, team up with the water Na'vi, and the fucking whales.
And the forest Na'vis.
And the forest Na'vis, and they fight the people of Earth, who eventually are teamed up with the Fire Nation Na'vis. And when it looks bad, Sigourney Weaver, who's the reincarnation of Sigourney Weaver from the first movie, goes to the planet and says, could you please help us? And then the octopuses start teaming up with them to fight. And that's more or less the plot of the movie. Colonel Guy may or may not be dead once again, and it ends. So Aiden, what did you think of Avatar 3, Fire and Ash?
Avatar 3 is essentially a remake of Avatar 2, but you replace, like, the first hour of that movie was just like, wow, look at the water effects, look at the whales. And this time they skip all that to
Remember Pandora?
Yeah. This time they skip all that to do exposition about the Fire Nation. And by exposition I mean the Colonel guy meets the Fire Nation leader woman and does DMT and then has sex with her, and she's like, our village burned down, we got really sad about it, so we're gonna burn everyone else's villages down. And he's like, that's freaking rad, dude. And otherwise, like, it has the same final fight as the prior movie, except all of the whales participate because one of the whales gives an impassioned speech about how they need to fight.
There is a whale speech.
For some reason there's a giant blue and purple magnet laser beam coming out of the ocean that sucks up metal. And otherwise it's just the same final fight. And the Fire Nation guys show up. And I like the Fire Nation guys because they have rocket launchers that they one hand and guns, but otherwise they're just like more Na'vi on the dragons, and the big dragon comes back. A solid like 80% of this movie consists of people getting held hostage or kidnapped, Including at one point Jake, who gives himself up as a heroic sacrifice to save the water village, and within 3 scenes is saved by his wife and Spider, and also some other random marine biologist guy who doesn't show up after that. The whalers are back. There's scenes of the whales flipping onto boats just like the last time. More scenes of the whales flipping onto boats. Every character in the entire story gets kidnapped at least once, except for Jake's son, who spends the whole movie looking for the whale, which means he's not in the movie very much. But every other character...
he tries to commit suicide. And he's like, actually, fuck it, I'm gonna look for whales.
He does try to kill himself and then goes on the whale quest, and then he's out of the movie for like a third of it.
Yep.
The whole main hero gang immediately gets kidnapped by the fire lady. Jake's wife, Natiri, kidnaps the fire lady at one point. The colonel gets kidnapped by the fire lady at one point. The kids get kidnapped to an absurd degree.
Yeah.
This movie's a little weirder than the last one. Like, in the last one, they talked about Sigourney Weaver's immaculate reincarnation a little bit, and she did some weird thing at the end where she like cooked into the giant water flower. But in this one, she gives Spider the magic mushrooms that make him into... he can breathe the air and he grows the tail hair. But also, she has like a romance subplot with little baby Spider. And so 75-year-old Sigourney Weaver's voice is coming out of little 11-year-old blue person Sigourney Weaver with a 75-year-old haircut making out with a little jungle boy who was 13 when this movie was filmed 10 years ago. It's really unsettling. It was a strange decision. And then some of the characters go to Avatar Heaven at the end, and Sigourney Weaver's just standing there with all the avatars, because I guess you know, being reincarnated as an avatar qualifies you for Avatar Heaven with all the avatars.
Well, no, she got sucked into the mushrooms at the end of the first movie, I think.
Yeah, that's how she got reincarnated as a little baby.
Right.
Little baby.
Well, so you got to mention that it was immaculate conception.
Yeah.
Jake's like, I wasn't the father. There was no father. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Your space Jesus, little Sigourney Weaver. And she says, oh, is that so, Sonny boy? I'm only 11, Sonny boy.
It feels like a very, very extended epilogue to the prior movie, the second one. Like, these were probably one movie at some point, and they added the final battle into the second movie so that it could be a complete movie. And this was meant to be like one monstrous, like 6.5 hour movie that they wouldn't let Jimmy release.
Right.
Because it's so redundant with the things that happen in the second movie that it hardly bears mentioning. And also in like the second movie had the advantage of being like a crazy leap forward in special effects and 3D, and
it was also new again because it was like all new environments and like it was different. One thing that really bothered me about this movie is it's like there's like 6 CGI sets and they really feel like CGI sets. It doesn't have the scale of the first movie.
There's the
or
Water
the
Village,
second
there's
movie.
the Ash Village, and there's the Human City.
But when we saw half the village, so Pandora is the biggest fucking place ever. The other thing, but it's still like, why are we at this water village for the 20th time? Like, imagine if Lord of the Rings was like, alright, we need to go back to the same fucking field that we fought in Fellowship.
Gandalf says, hold on a second, Bilbo. I forgot something in the Shire.
We need to double back. And also, people just teleport in this movie. It's like, how close are they to the human village from the water village? Because it seems like it'd be far away. But they hop on these fucking falcons, or the fucking dragon things, and they're going back and forth.
Jake is in captivity for literally one day.
I need to save Jake right now. And then his wife hops on one of the dragon things, and somehow he's just there. And then they like it's going to take them 3 days for the military to come, and they're like, we better prepare, and they make like 20 trips to the village and go here, here, and here. Pandora feels incredibly fucking small in this movie. Like, I think we might get like a 30 square mile fucking look at this ginormous planet. Yeah. Pandora in the first movie felt like this big living, breathing thing, and even the second movie. In this movie, it's like, here's your 5 fucking locations that are animated, mind you, immaculate fucking simulated locations, and I'm sure each location costed just millions upon millions to make, which is why they kept stomping around in the same place, but like...
Yeah.
It felt so small somehow.
Pretty much the only new locations, like... I think we saw the Human City very briefly in 2, at least like the interior buildings.
Yeah.
And pretty much the only new location, there's like the courtyard where Jake gets imprisoned, and then there's the Ash Village, but the Ash Village is just a bunch of white sand on the ground.
Well, there's also like a couple fucking rivers.
Like
there's a couple rivers.
Yeah, there's
various
like
wood-sized sets, but like the whole idea of Pandora is like it's this giant world. You got to connect to the world. Why are we seeing fucking a 1/4 of 1/4 of 1% of this world?
It's kind of got the Star Wars problem too, where there's literally 4 important characters that have been in all 3 of these movies, with the addition of
wraps it all
2 of those important characters' kids.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely does. I think the reincarnation subplot and
like the fish avatars are not at all relevant in this story beyond the fact that
Jake keeps landing back in the fish village for some reason.
Jake and his family hang out with them.
The poor fish village too would just be left alone if Jake and his family didn't just pop up every weekend.
Yeah. The only important character, arguably, as far as the fish people go, is like the chief's wife who's pregnant, and she's probably like the side character with the most lines because she kind of interacts with Natiri, and then she gives birth when she dies, and presumably the little fish baby's gonna hang out with Jake too in the next one.
Well, the husband was still alive, so I'm sure. But I think there is supposed to be kind of a time jump between these because it sounds like this was shot as one big ass movie, 2 and 3, and then they're gonna do the same thing with 4 and 5, presuming that they do well enough. Or they said they were starting it in post, but I'm guessing they haven't started and they're just gonna film them when they figure out if this works. But also, like, I don't know if Jimmy Cameron's getting bored of these, but he's been talking a lot in interviews about pretty much anything but Avatar.
Yeah.
I think 20 years of Avatar has been kind of tapped out, which is why, in part, this movie kind of feels like, you know, if we didn't make more Avatars, it wouldn't be the end of the world, or if Jimmy puts it down and somebody else takes over the reins in 15 years, it's not the end of the world. It's a pretty soft wrap-up, kind of like the first movie.
You know, the thing is, I want to say, like, the action's a little better, the effects are a little better, but the fact that I was already wowed by the second movie a literal year ago...
It was 3 years ago, 2022.
Yeah, you're right. The fact that I was wowed by the previous movie in the same way as this one is trying to wow me has lessened the impact pretty significantly. Right. I feel like if one or the other of these movies, like if number 2 didn't exist and this was just number 2, with a little bit of the setup stuff from 2 shoved in the front, I probably would have had the same reaction I did to 2, where I was like, this is crazy impressive, and it's a little hokey and bland, but it's really cool.
Right.
But seeing the same magic trick a second time, it loses some of its impact a little bit.
Yeah, the third time, really, because Avatar... The thing is, Avatar 2 is pretty much a decent movie because Avatar 1 came out. If Avatar 2 came out a year and a half after the first Avatar, and don't get me wrong, Avatar 1 has aged well, but there is a lot of advancements and stuff. Like, Avatar 2 looks significantly better. But this is like the same fucking movie again, so it doesn't really benefit from 15 years of technological advances the way the previous movie did.
Pretty much. Gunner, what'd you think of Avatar: Fire and Ash?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest problem with this movie is you start feeling the story of a hell of a lot more, as we were kind of talking about. The technologies. If this movie has better. I mean, there is some really cool moments where James Cameron's flexing technology and doing really cool stuff, don't get me wrong. And I'm sure to some minute degree it looks better than the second movie, because I'm sure James Cameron wouldn't accept anything but the best, and it took 3 years to whip this thing together. But by and large, like, compare this to Avatar 2 and the second film to Avatar 1, there isn't that fucking massive leap. Which means the biggest Achilles heel of these Avatar movies comes through a lot more, which is the weird plots.
Yeah.
I don't know. 15 years is what it took them to make 7 hours of content. And this movie felt like a broken record. Like, it had to be bigger. It had to be bigger than the last one. And, like, the final battle, again, we're at the water village, but this time there's some different stuff. The fight was really fun. It was cool. There was nice stuff, but it was pretty, like, meh. I think even, honestly, if it was the exact same fight at a different location, you know, with different setting, you know, it could have even been a water set. Go to a different fucking village, water village, you know. Yeah, maybe it looks more like fucking. Maybe it's more like a fishing village with smaller structures instead of one big structure.
My thought would be like,
but it's literally just the fact that this looks identical. Clutch again is whales, but this time it's more whales.
My thought would be like, keep Jake kidnapped or like imprisoned, and have all the avatars come together and storm the human city. Then the humans have the edge, and
for once it's the reverse.
A lot more technological.
And then you could also have the debate where it's like, well, we don't want to be the aggressors, and it's like, well,
yeah,
we're aggressively defending, which is pretty much the plot with the whales. You know? So you could still not change much and do that, which would have made more sense. But instead, half this movie is like, okay, X character gets kidnapped or incapacitated or something. We have to do X side mission to do it. And then there's a bunch of build-up, and then there's a really cool action scene. I mean, we have a small version of what we were proposing when his wife saves him from the city, and Spider's there stuff too. And it's really cool. Really good stuff. Impressive. All the action scenes are very impressive. The final action scene just feels derivative, but I don't know, this kind of broken record of if we don't do this now, the character's gonna die, but no one getting any consequences because they killed a character in the last movie and they didn't want to do it again. In a lot of ways, I feel like the ideal. I almost wonder, because this movie isn't the movie. The second and third movie aren't the movies that James Cameron was going to make 15 years ago. The original third movie was supposed to be like an Earth village. It was called like Seeds of Ground or some fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
But I think it changed over time, and I almost wonder if at one point 2 and 3 were supposed to be one movie, and then he had to expand and get rid of it, because it feels like the major expositions in the first movie. The first movie has some cool action scenes and stuff throughout, but by and large, comparatively, it's a slog. This movie is like, let's come up with 15 minutes of story of expositional story we can use so that we can get to an action scene.
Yep.
And that is the formula for 3.5 hours. This movie realistically feels like it was maybe 2 hours of content stretched out to 3.5 hours, because the other movies are 3.5 hours, so this one has to be 3.5 hours.
Yeah. Also a little odd thing.
It feels like if you combined Avatar 2 and 3, cut the final fight out of 2, have maybe a smaller fight where one of the kids die, because I think that was kind of integral.
Yeah.
And then you could cut out like 60% of the fucking hostage situations in this movie. Give the proper exposition, you know. Him and his wife become, Jake and his wife become racist for a little bit towards humans.
And
then they get over it and they realize vengeance isn't the way, blah, blah, blah. And then their daughter is Space Jesus, who has to connect with the planet, blah, 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 you know. These kind of tropey ideas we've seen a million times remixed into Pandora, which is always just been the Pandora fucking thing.
Yep.
Do all this, and then make this one like 4 or 5 hour movie, 2 and 3, and you probably have an incredible epic on your hands. But the problem is, I feel like there was too much for the studio to be like, okay, if we're investing $800 million into this, you're not doing one movie.
Yep.
Next to impossible to fucking pull off. They wanted a big climax at the end of 2, because 2 and 3. It's weird. It feels
have
like
any ideas besides the whales fight the boats.
It feels like a part 1, part 2 type of movie. Part 2 kind of needed to have a conclusion, so they could call it its own movie, because the part 1, part 2 trend is over.
Yep.
And then this movie needed a bunch of shit to make it the 3.5 hours, even though, it could have sufficed at 2.5 hours even.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with this movie, is it feels like it's kind of like the Battle of Five Armies Hobbit, where it's like 2/3 entirely unimportant, irrelevant garbage. Maybe not garbage. It's impressive, irrelevant bullshit that leads to a final battle.
Garbage.
I liked the second movie. It was a lot of interesting exposition. We explore a lot. We see the family dynamics. And this movie, I feel like, was like, let's put all the weird shit into the third movie, first off. Second off, let's retread a bunch of grounds. We have to spin our wheels so we can make that 3.5, because ultimately these are supposed to be 3.5 hour epics. And I think this movie kind of suffers the consequences of the fact that 2 and 3 together were too long to be one movie, but too short to sustain 2 3.5 hour movies the way they ended up trying to do.
Yeah.
So Aiden, would you recommend Avatar 3?
One little odd observation before I do. For a movie called Fire and Ash, the Fire Tribe isn't really that important. The only named member of the Fire Tribe is just like the Colonel guy's odd job. Basically, she's like the super henchman. After they have DMT6.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. And she was like on all the posters, but she's probably like the 7th most important character.
She's vaguely important, but not really. I think that we're just, for a marketing standpoint, we're like, what if we did the fire, water, earth, wind thing? Totally unique idea.
Well, the other marketing thing is like, if you put the Colonel guy on the poster again, and it was like, he's back. Then that people might be like, what the fuck? You know?
Jake and his... Why did they just take the poster from 2, but take all the water effects out and replace them with fire effects?
They kind of lied. The movie's the marketing's a little misleading to make you think this is like Avatar versus evil fire Avatar, but it's like Avatar versus the Colonel guy again, but he befriends one singular fire Avatar and her henchman.
And they're not really fire... I mean, they're kind of fire... They like fire, but mostly they're just impressed with guns. They're just dicks.
Yeah. They're just the mean now.
They're dicks that vaguely like fire. It's not like the water tribe where they're like biologically different. Even the air tribe Na'vi are. Yeah. I was really excited to like the air tribes pulling up, and you're like, okay, so you got these water tribe.
They gave the water
Na'vi
tribe ones like the connected hands and
like,
gills.
They've slightly mutated and evolved different than the Na'vi from the first movie, and that's really cool. And then the fire ones just pull up and they just look like normal Na'vi. And then the air ones pull up and they look the same as the normal Na'vi.
Yeah, the air ones just look exactly the same, but the fire ones are ashy.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like, if you're going to do that, like, do it for all 4. This movie feels like James Cameron might have just gotten bored of Avatar.
Yeah, maybe.
He might be done with these. I have a sneaking suspicion
this had a definitive enough end that he can call it off and wait 15 years until he gets inspired for the finales.
Yeah, he'll die making his final Avatar. I think James Cameron also doesn't want to die being known as the Avatar guy for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
The last 25 years of his life.
Probably not. But anyway, in summation, I guess, like, I don't really know how to recommend this, because if you saw the second one, it's really redundant, but also if you saw the second one, you're probably invested enough to see this one anyway. So, you know, I guess, like, if you never saw the first two, you probably would have no reason to watch this. And it's really technologically impressive. If you saw the first one and not the second one, you could watch this one and be very confused, but you'd be like, wow, this movie looks good. And if you, I don't know what I'm saying. Basically, I have no clue how to recommend this because it's not very good. It's very impressive on the technological side, as the second one was. It's very redundant with the second one. And, I don't know. Like, I guess, yeah, sure. Connor, would you recommend Avatar Fire and Ash?
The story's a hot mess. So was the first two, but the impressiveness kind of pulls it through, and honestly, the story of the first two is a lot cleaner. The final fight is incredibly cool, and so are all the fight scenes, frankly, but same with the second movie.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like, if you're one of those guys who's a fan of Avatar, go ahead. There aren't really any
who killed himself so he could be an Avatar.
Yeah, I bet he's pissed he missed out on the Colonel banging a bunch of Na'vi.
Yeah. He said he's just like me, for real, up
I
from
mean,
heaven.
There's a lot of things to love about this movie, but they're all things to love about the previous two movies. So if you really like the first two, or just want something where you can sit there chomping popcorn for 3.5 hours, there are many points in this movie I started laughing because it just got too stupid. I think James Cameron wanted to get really stupid with some stuff, and somehow, even though this movie costed $400 million, took 15 years, and et cetera, it feels like James Cameron's like fucking bored of these movies by the time he made this and just didn't fucking care. He just wanted to be done. I don't know how to describe it. There's just like less...
Yeah.
There's like less care. The lore feels like a fucking joke more than like something that might be ridiculous, but James Cameron has reverence for it. I don't know. It just, I don't know. And also like weird ideas like Sigourney Weaver playing a 15-year-old girl but sounding like a 75-year-old woman because she is a 75-year-old woman, and then like making out with a 15-year-old boy, and then there's like fucking characters that are here but they don't know what to do with them, so then they're fucking around with whales.
There's like 10 times throughout this movie where I thought to myself, like, there's no way this is still going on, which I never had that thought during the second movie.
The first two movies,
like when Jake is about to kill Spider in the woods and there's like a 10-minute scene of him reading off Avatar prayers and crying, I was like, there's no way this movie is still fucking going on.
They straight up took enough nut mice and men. Don't talk to me. Look away. Look at the rabbits. I love the rabbits, Jake. I love you too, Daddy. I also like how that has like no consequence. They're flying, right? And Jake spent the first half of the movie being like, we can't kill Spider. It's not right. And then they're flying. Spider just risked his life and saved him. And then Jake's flying and he's like, fuck, dude, we just gotta kill this kid. So then he's like, land it. And then he's like, why don't you stand like 5 feet over there and take a leak in the river or something, bro? And then he's like, we gotta kill him. And now his wife's like, you just fucking told me the first half of this movie we can't kill him.
I know I keep adding more like and alsos, but
there's so many and alsos because there's so much weird shit in this movie.
None of the protagonist characters have arcs in really either this or the previous movie.
They do have arcs. It goes like this. One scene, something's set up, and by the end of the scene, it's done, and they go to the next thing.
Okay, I feel a little unfair saying that. The kid has like an arc where his dad learns to trust him because he really loves whales or some shit. But the main character who's getting the arc throughout the second and third movies is the evil Colonel man who, like, clearly the plot is heading towards, like, he eventually gets redeemed and learns to love the Na'vi ways through the love of his son and co-parenting with Jake and whatever.
He sacrifices himself to save the Na'vi or something and realizes the error of his ways.
Because he really loves his son. It's a really strange idea that has been slowly bubbling up over movies 2 and 3, but doesn't...
He jumped into the smoke so that they could say if they don't decide to do 4
If they don't make another one, he croaked, and if not, that's why he's back in the next one to continue his redemption arc.
Yeah, pretty much. This movie, kind of like the first Avatar, is like, we've left room open, but who knows if we'll actually bother doing it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's my last hand also, so...
Yeah, I guess I kind of recommend it if you like the other Avatar movies. I think of the three, this to me was far and away the worst. I mean, it's still like, I don't know, it's Avatar, it's fine. But from a story perspective, it's a fucking mess. It's so weird.
Yeah.
So here is some clips from from Paul's Drunkview of Avatar. You're gonna be delighted by what you hear next. Paul's from behind the camera, like this is a goddamn
ISIS hostage.
ISIS hostage video or something. Paul is in just to set the scene. Paul's in a full tuxedo right now.
So the film started out. It happened. They got caught, and then.
What about that Captain America trailer, folks? I didn't watch it.
I haven't
We're
seen
too
it
late. Unobtainium doesn't really matter.
It's unobtainable, they decided.
They decided it's a totally unobtainable metal. They were succinct in their judgment when they called it unobtainium. That's what happened, Paul. I can't change it. I'm not James Cameron.
Bring it up with Jimmy if you don't like
Bring
it.
it up with Jimmy.
Quaritch. Do we want to just talk about the battle scene first?
She's like, you're very sexy, young man.
They did all this CGI, put in all this effort, but we didn't get our goth girl sex scene, unlike the first film. Because our BDSM Navi mommy was the most interesting character throughout the film.
Was she?
Well, this PG-13 film had several scenes that involved rape.
I mean, the first movie featured Jake raping like 6 dragons. So.
Because it was in the middle of Me Too. Like a ping pong ball gimp suit with an erected slong rubbing against the female actor. I mean, that's what they did for the first film. They showed it all. They had the whole thing. Nowadays, with modern technology, we have silicone pussies where they could have just strapped on.
Pussies in 2009, Paul. The silicone pussies have been around for a long time. I'm not even just talking about.
But they weren't as realistic. They weren't as realistic. Oh, you know, there's off-scene edits where they actually put in all the CGI and everyone's sharing it around who's directing it and working on the film.
I don't think that's true.
There's gotta be.
I think like 100,000 people worked on this movie and someone would have released it.
Yeah, somebody would have said, I thought it was really fucked up when I had to fucking... Because even the guy, so in the original Hulk movie, Ang Lee, somebody was bitching on Reddit or something that he had to do the CGI testicles for the dog. There's a dog who did the CGI testicles.
Yeah, he did the CGI testicles. That was the only thing he worked on, the CGI dog testicles.
I spent 3 months programming physics for the CGI dog testicles AMA. I had to do vaginal fluid effects on Jake Sully's wiener.
I spent 6 months on vaginal fluid effects on Jake Sully's wiener for it to get cut. To go to Jamie Cameron's personal stash.
James Cameron had one of those really high-end. He's like, now ever fuck Marge. Haven't fucked Marge Simpson. There's no way you're putting this in the film. They're like, it's all Fox properties. We're just waiting on the okay for Fox. I need you to spend 9 months animating.
Alright, now put the Joker in there.
You probably could have cut out at least 2 or 3 of the kidnappings.
See,
well,
Jimmy might
I think
die
Jimmy is probably gonna die.
Summer.
You never get any leaks. You'd think after 10 years, somebody on the goddamn crew would have been like, yeah, so. But also, like, what are you gonna leak? They dick around in the woods for 3.5 There's a couple fight scenes.
with this cutie pie Brazilian goth girlfriend scene that we had that didn't have any plot development.
I'm sorry, man. I'm so sorry.
Not so bad. What the fuck did you eat, bro? Keep it rolling.
So, how would you guys feel about the environmentalism segments? Do you think we needed the environmental speeches?
It's the whole point of these movies.
All 3 movies.
If you like rape, the amber elixir. It was a mix.
The Avatar drink?
It is the Avatar drink, and it was really stinky because it had hot honey syrup, and Maker's Mark in it.
I bet you that was moldy. At least one of those ingredients, if not all, were moldy.
No,
Probably fruit flies in the goddamn Maker's Mark.